America, my name is Osei-Frimpong. I come to you live every Thursday about 3:34. Today is a special Sunday show because I've been thinking about how they're prosecuting the Michigan killer's parents for the kid's crime because they bought him the gun, pretty much pointed him, bought him the gun, and then let him go. And it turns out he shot up a bunch of people. So I'm actually in favor of holding parents accountable for their kids' crimes. And I'm glad it's starting with the whites, because if we hold white parents accountable, it'll be like, well, the resources that we might actually talk about remediation, and we can actually have the conversation about so how did your son become an a-hole murderer? We can actually have that conversation, and it could be productive. If it was just black people, they would just throw them in jail and wouldn't ask any questions. With white people, we can actually have a productive conversation about where did you screw up in your parenting so that you made a murder. And kids are minors. Everything they do should be in charge of an adult. And I say this with someone with 3 kids. It's not like I'm some childless guy. I have 3 kids. If my kids shoot people up, I've screwed up parenting. If my kid offers your kid drugs, I've screwed up parenting. That won't happen because I take parenting seriously, right? So you could say well, your kids are young. No, I just know what I'm doing. And I've thought about this. If your kid offers my kid drugs, you're a screw up as a parent. My kid won't offer your kid drugs. My kid's not going to shoot your kids. So it's because I actually think about what it is to create a culture to raise a functional, just human being. And right now, I'll be honest, I think white parents are the worst parents on the planet. I get in trouble people saying that. They'll be like, well, look at the murder rates and look at the crime rates. Yeah, white parents have all of they've literally gamed all of the institutions in America to hold up their crappy parenting. At least conservatives take it more seriously when they raise the little sociopath. They raise little controlling jerk guys and then infantilize older women, white women. But liberals, they just throw up their hands and let magic parent their kids. And that is even more irresponsible. And when their kids screw up, they're just surprised. What happened? I just let them do what makes them happy. Of course, I'd ended up in them being degenerate drug addicts. You were a bad parent. You need to have a substantive culture. Or just boring, awful kids. Right? So I think liberals, in a way, are worse than conservative whites. Liberal whites are the worst parents in the United States. Conservative whites, at least they intentionally, they put some more intentional effort in making the controlling jerk men that they do and the infantilized adult women that they do. But liberals let it are bad parenting in other ways. So this idea that you hold parents accountable for the behaviors and crimes of their kids is perfectly appropriate. And if we start with the whites, we could actually open up the conversation about what kind of cultural infrastructure you need to actually raise a functional adult, right? And I think that's great because black people are doing it with a degree of difficulty, a quality of degree of difficulty that is, I've got a whole episode in mind, maybe next week, about the degree of difficulty of being a black parent. It's a landmine. And so we have we're MacGyvering it. White people have everything and they're screwing it up with their kids. And it's just because they're bad at it. It's we have a bad culture around what it means to reproduce just people. Because a lot of white people aren't trying to reproduce just people. The liberals are just trying to make them happy. And the conservatives are just trying to make them in charge. And both of that is not consistent with being good, because if you're just trying to be happy, that's going to end in drugs and anxiety. If you're just trying to be in charge, that's going to end up with you reproducing all sorts of social ills that your parents lived in. So I agree with the idea that we should start holding parents accountable, because then we can actually have the conversation about what parents need to do their job, because it's very complicated raising a functional adult in the United States. It's a highly specialized economy, and you actually need to start preparing them early. I bought a book for my kids. I have 9, 6, and 4-year-olds. I bought a book of medical specialties. And like we were talking about which medical specialty. Now I just decided it would actually just be better if they were law professors, either law professors or philosophy professors, because being a professor is a pretty good gig. And I can actually just walk them through here to like, I can just walk them through. So but like that's going to be generational knowledge. I didn't have anyone walk me through. So that's why, by the way, if you support me and what I'm doing, go ahead and go to www.funkyacademic.com and kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month. And don't be surprised in 15 or 20 years, you see one of my progeny in this seat, holding forth with, 20 minutes worth of wisdom every Thursday at a certain time, because this is what I'm bequeathing them. You, the audience. And they'll be good because I talk to them like I talk to you. So imagine 15 years of, or 18 years of just back and forth like this. They're actually going to be rather charming and insightful. And so, you have to have a plan for your kids. And if you don't have a plan for your kids, more than just like, well, I'll just help them do what makes them happy. That's good for like, I don't know, people who have institutions working for them. But if you're black and you're watching this, you need to have a plan for your kids. And if you're white and you're watching this first, you need to go to www.funkyacademic.com and kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month. Because if you're white, I'm giving you stuff that your parents should have taught you. And, you owe me. If you're black, you get it for free because, for a variety of reasons. But you should also, if you're black and you have a little bit of money, go ahead and go to www.funkyacademic.com and kick in $5, $15, or $50. So you need to have a plan for your kids, because if you don't have a plan for your kids, just know that the greater society has a plan for your kids. And the greater society's plan for your kids, if you're black, is not particularly healthy. And even if you're white, the greater society's plan for your kids isn't particularly great, because the greater society needs the occasional white mass shooter to keep everybody else in line. The wildcat violence, white supremacy needs a little bit of wildcat violence to keep everybody else, keeping the whites happy. So even if you don't want your kid to be the popcorn that pops and shoots up a school, America needs the occasional white kid to shoot up a school, just to keep everybody else scared of the whites. So if you don't have a design on your kid not being the occasional white kid who shoots up a school, then America does. And don't be surprised then don't be surprised when the kid shoots up a school. Because America needs the occasional white kid to shoot up a school to keep everyone else in check. And you need to kind of think about designing that your kid isn't the white kid. Now, mostly I'm just worried about your kid trying to give my kid drugs. And like, I don't really care about the backstory about how that's going to happen. But if your kid tries to give my kid drugs, we're going to have problems. And so I want the intervention to happen early before your kid tries to give my kid drugs and someone gets their feelings hurt. Because I will cuss out your kid. I'll cuss out you. I don't care. It will not be polite. So if any point in time, my kid's 9, if any point in time your kid tries to give my kid drugs, they will get a mouthful from me, and then I will give it to a mouthful from you, and I'll go to your mom, their grandma, and give them a mouthful, and they're going to hear it all about your degenerate parenting. All right? So for the good of us all, we need to hold parents accountable for what their kids do. And I say this with a person with 3 kids. If my kids screw up, hold me accountable. It's on me. I will eat it. And I know that every day I spend with my kids. So I'm preparing them to be the kind of person who don't do things like that. Are you preparing your kid to be the kind of person who doesn't do things like that? And you could say that when they screw up, you can say, I didn't know that was them. I'm not going to care. I'm not going to care. As soon as you involve my kid in your nonsense and your kid's nonsense, like you are a problem, your kid is a problem, the whole thing. Like I need you to know that. So like to start preparing your kid right now for an angry me if your kid screws up with my kid, which is perfectly appropriate. Perfectly appropriate. So, like, take parenting seriously. And it's very hard. And, I wrote another piece about the nuclear family. Just put in my name, Irony, and nuclear family and how we need to support. We need to support the nuclear family for a few reasons. We need policies because both culturally and materially, raising kids is hard. So I think we should have robust policies in support of families. And people say, like, well, why the nuclear family? Well, the nuclear family is actually an intervention because without the nuclear family, you're under the sway of clan governance. Some uncle's telling you what to do. Or Mima is your insurance, right? So, clan governance is a problem for freedom. So you want people to be emancipated from like their uncles and extended family and to be able to kind of organize their household as they see fit. So, but that takes on an infinite amount of risk and work. So we need to kind of think through that and what that means. To support nuclear families and so they don't have to depend upon extended families for both labor and eating the risk and liability, because then you become under the sway of that extended family, and that's like in the Thanksgiving dinner that never ends. That's not freedom either. So we need to actually support nuclear families and have policies that support nuclear families both culturally and materially, and then hold those nuclear families accountable when their kids screw up. Right? If you're raising a delinquent kid, if your kid's a bad influence, you're not doing your job. Like, you're not doing your job. And I think it's okay that the public says you're not doing your job. Now, I'm not totally keen with it being run through the criminal justice system. I think in general, we should just look at, holding parents accountable for their screwed up kids. Like, I think we just need to be clear that it's the parent's job to parent. And if the kid's not getting culturally what they need to know not to do things that are going to be a problem for society, then it's the kid's fault, but also it's the parent's fault. The kid is a minor, right? And a culture of that, I think, will just end up with better kids. Hold me accountable for my kids, and I will hold you accountable for your kids. I'm not messing around with parenting, and I expect you to not mess around with parenting either. And if your kid becomes a problem for my kid, not only will I become a problem for your kid, I'll become a problem for you, right? And that is perfectly appropriate. So just raise better kids. It's hard, but it's not impossible. We could do with better support, but we have to be honest about like the problems parents face and the job of parenting. That kids don't raise themselves, culturally or materially. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, especially with these pills. I'm reading Dope Sick right now, and these pill poppers come from all classes. And it's just people who've taught their kids. And it's usually, honestly, for the white kids, it's a lot of like these parents who got them on ADHD medication because they couldn't take their kid having energy. And instead of actually teaching them how to control themselves, they shoved them through the pills. And then when they get to junior high, those pills become like heroin. They start taking because of the mom's on antidepressants or pain medications and the kid's on ADHD medication. And then pretty soon the kid starts taking the mom's pain medication. And then you got like kids hooked on opium in pill form, and it's all because of a distorted culture around pain and what medication is for, right? So you don't want to be a parent, so you got your kid thinking that pills are the way to solve problems, but because you put them on ADHD medication, and then you're surprised when they get addicted to some other pills, and that's on you. That's on you because you were a bad parent. It's okay. Well, it's a problem. And, when your kid is at a party with my kid and your kid is trying to give my kid your Oxycontin or your Percocets, then it becomes a problem for me. And if it becomes a problem for me, it becomes a problem for you. And I'm just telling you that right now. So by the way, if someone, Rob Scram says, I actually just read that page in Dope Sick about the move from ADHD to taking your parents' medication. That's like we're all like in the suburbs. That's how it happened. You had these kids who were used to taking pills because of their ADHD medication, and then it just moved to like popping pills that they found in their mom's medicine cabinet. And they had pill parties and all that stuff. So like that's like an actual thing. I don't have the book in front of me, but if you read Beth Mathy's Dope Sick, that's like it's just medicating kids, acculturated them to popping pills, and then they pop pills you don't want to. Then they start popping pills you don't want them to pop, and you're like, "Where did you learn it?" And they're like, "Well, I learned it from you giving me pills." So I support. I support more punishment for parents. I support a culture that holds parents accountable and us opening the conversation about what parents need in order to do their job, because we don't have that conversation right now because we don't hold parents accountable. We don't hold parents accountable. So if we actually held parents accountable, we could actually have the community conversation about, all right, so what kind of community material and cultural support do parents need in order for them to do their jobs so that they don't let magic raise their kids? So that's the conversation we should have, because I do think that like not everyone has my resources to do this, both culturally and materially, to do it well, and so they're going to screw up their kids, and then their screwed up kids are going to talk to my kids, and then like threaten to screw up my kids, and my kid's going to have to fix your kids, and my kids very my kids are going to be very busy, so they're not going to have time to both do what they're supposed to do and fix your screwed up kids. So, I want you to actually be able to fix your screwed up kids. So I want you to be a better parent and have the material and cultural resources available for you to actually be able to teach your kid about the dignity in the mind. And I'll tell you right now, I tell my kids, take care of your mind. Your mind's a very important thing. The mind is the only thing the whites can't take away from you. Take care of your mind. Take care of your mind. Take care of your mind. Everything else, you hurt your arm, you take chances, that's fine. Do not take chances with this right here. And other people are going to be sloppy with their minds. Don't let them drag you in, because your mind is what solves you and allows you to get out of all of the jams we're going to get into. And I'm going to need your mind, and the world is going to need your mind. So I tell my kid that, and so they actually, respect their mind. Other parents tell their kid, just do what makes them happy. And then they're surprised when that ends up in drugs. Because they were bad. Yeah. So, yeah, I want more support. Yeah, I want both more support and more accountability for parents. And that's good. And that's good for everyone. And that's good for everyone, not just like the parents who need it, but the other parents who don't, so they don't have to contend with the parents who need it. Right? So I'm glad the conversation is moved to, we have to hold parents accountable for the acts of minors. And I think that's healthy. I think that's healthy for the community. Look, if your kid shot up in Columbine 20 years ago, I think I read an article about those parents. Yeah, you should have a lot of questions about like how you screwed up. If your kid is in and out of rehab, if you have more than one, you have one kid that's in rehab, you're like, well, I guess I got unlucky. You really didn't. You took your eye off the ball, but I'll give you that. If you have one kid that's rehab and then the other one who's just a screw up in a different way, like you were just bad at the most important thing in your life. The thing you had the most responsibility of doing, you screwed up. You fumbled. You zigged when you should have zagged in a profound way. And there are no small number of actually middle class and upper class white people with more resources than you could ever imagine screwing up their kids because they took their eye off the ball. I've said it before. I think white liberals are the worst parents. Honestly, in terms of single parents, now this is just anecdotal, but I think it's going to be true. White single parents are bad. Black single parents, not ideal situation, but at least they're kind of a little bit more on the job. White single parents are just like horrible at it. I was raised by, my mom was a single parent. She was busy, but like white single parents are just like so bad at it that they're bad at it. They get manipulated by their kids, and their kids are they just raised like the worst kids. Anyway, so hold parents accountable for what the kids do, have the conversation about how we can support parents with the public purse and the public infrastructure to help parents do a job, because it's an actual job. It's not done by magic. So if we're going to hold parents accountable for what they do, we have to actually give them the enabling conditions for them to do it well. And that's more than just like an abortion clinic. That's actually like an infrastructure for them to do it well. Yeah, I don't know about metal detectors. I'm not. Yeah, when people say urban schools, I'm looking at you, radical. Well, I don't know about metal detectors, anything like that. I just think that you got to hold. I don't know about holding the school accountable. This is one of those things that the parents screwed it up. I think, like, so you got to. I mean, they bought him the gun. Like that's a gimme. Why are you buying your minor a gun? Like, that should always be in a safe. I don't know. Like, you should hold it like in trust. This is the gun that you could have like when you turn 22 or whatever. Like that should be held in trust, and like it's in the safe, and like but it's not yours. So like, hold on. Oh man, one of them Columbine moms had a whole tech talk removing their responsibilities and blaming it all on the poor kid. What are you talking about? If my kid is next to the kid that's shooting people, feeding that kid ammo, you can blame me. I should be charged with like accessory because of my kid. So it's not just about, I'm reading Siddiq's comment like about the Columbine moms, like blaming everyone else for her for the fact that she screwed up with like the one job she had, which is raising that kid. Maybe she had another job, but it's a parent's fault. It's the parent's fault. Like, you screwed up raising your kid. I don't know. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you screwed up raising your kid in an important way. And not just with crime. Like, if your kid's making bad decisions, it's because you taught them how to make bad decisions. You could blame everything else, but at the end of the day, like, your job is to shepherd them into a very complicated world. And people say, I don't know. You know, I have a friend. He was telling me about his friend, and, you know, very kind of not conservative Jewish, but like, you know, pretty academic Jewish background. And all 5 kids ended up going to Princeton. Like, their parent did. Right? All 5 kids ended up going to Princeton. All 5. Right? You think that's an accident? Or do you think that's someone parenting with purpose? I think that's someone parenting with purpose. And I'm not surprised. Yeah, honestly, you start putting parents in jail too, and you'll see them gun safes suddenly start working really well. And you start putting moms in jail. There it is. Start putting moms in jail. We don't like this country, the most carceral nation in the history of the world, still does not like putting white women in jail. We start putting moms in jail for the kids' bad behavior, and we will start seeing some public policy around helping parents do better by their kids. Let's start putting moms in jail, and we'll start seeing public policy solutions. White moms. Start putting white moms in jail for their kids' screw-ups, and we will start seeing a public policy and a cultural program that creates fewer screwed-up kids. And then, you know, what else? Yeah, and I don't want it to stop at crimes too. I want to hold parents accountable for all of their kids' screw up decisions. Not just the illegal ones, but just like the morally dubious ones. Like Susan Rice's kid came out to be a huge Trump supporter. I'm going to try to it's Trump supporter. At some point in time, you have to hold Susan Rice accountable, because if your kid has that bad of politics, they learned it from watching you. They learned it from watching your hypocrisy. So you got all of these, You got all of these. I'm getting the art right now. All of these liberal Democrats who don't understand why their kid is such an asshole. And it's because they saw your hypocrisy. And when they see your hypocrisy, they become like an unhypocritical jerk. They saw you be a hypocritical jerk. And in response, they become an unhypocritical jerk. And that's because you're bad parenting. You sent mixed messages. There was a article about a school, a really like high-end school in New York, where the parent like $40,000 a year or whatever to send their kid to like 5th grade, and they were like, well, this school has like a social justice curriculum, right? So you got these parents who send their kids to school for $40,000 a year because they don't want their kids to go to school with your kids. And they don't want their kids to go to school with your kids. I'm looking for the rice pick. And yet you expect your kid not to end up a snob, right? So what they're learning from is hypocrisy from you. They're learning hypocrisy from you. And then when they become older, Corey Robbins says what happens is they become like real conservatives. They become reactionary conservatives because they saw your liberal hypocrisy. And so they become like no BS conservatives. So, yeah, I mean, that's the life. That's what we have to worry about. So yeah, you screw up with your kids, you should be held accountable, even if it's just like raising an accountant. And honestly, I get in trouble for this, but there's a way in which in these United States, if you're black and you're raising an accountant, I don't know, they better be like a revolutionary accountant. You got to raise the bar. There's a lot of work to be done, and your kid being boring is a form of script. Because honestly, if your kid's boring, being black, they're going to end up being part of the problem. Because the only good job they're going to get is either sucking up to white people or actually treating black people badly. Because that's a great job in America. If you're willing to treat black people like trash, that might be a growth industry. And that's unfortunate. So either you're raising a revolutionary, or I don't know what you're doing. You might be raising a problem. And you could be a revolutionary. Revolutionaries could look like all sorts of ways. You can be a revolutionary dentist. That's possible. It's not out of like the realm of possibility. But like they should have a dentist with good politics, and like throws them some of that dentist cash to people like me at www.funkyacademic.com. All right. So yes, hold parents accountable. Hopefully, not necessarily criminally immediately, but hopefully it'll open up the conversation about what parents need in order to do this very hard job, which is parenting well. And I do think that there are more bad white people than bad black people. So holding parents accountable, just a general culture of holding parents accountable, will actually be in toto good for Black America and good for racial justice writ large. So thank you for your time, and I will see you later this week. Peace.